Look up at the night sky and ask yourself a question that haunts the edges of your sanity. Is any of this actually real, or is it just a projection? You have felt it before, a sudden shiver of displacement, a moment where the world feels like a stage set that hasn't quite loaded in time for you to see. We build machines to watch the stars, desperate for a signal, but perhaps we are looking in the wrong direction. Perhaps the signal is coming from the code beneath our feet. Physics is beginning to whisper a terrifying secret. That matter isn't made of atoms, but of information, processing at the speed of light like a cosmic hard drive. Consider the moon, perfectly sized and perfectly distanced to eclipse the sun, a statistical impossibility that feels less like nature and more like a lazy design choice. If you break the universe down to its smallest components, you do not find solid matter. You find math, rigid equations that govern existence like lines of programming code. Theoretical physicist James Gates found something impossible in the equations of string theory: error-correcting computer code, identical to what runs your web browser, written into the fabric of reality. We are launching ourselves into the void, hoping to find other life, but the silence of the universe might be a feature, not a bug, of our solitary simulation. Look at the Earth from a distance, and you realize it is a closed system, a petri dish, isolated in a void, running a procedural generation of life and death. The double-slit experiment proved that reality changes when it is observed, suggesting the universe only renders the graphics that you are currently looking at to save processing power. This is known as rendering optimization in video game development, and it is terrifying to realize that the laws of quantum mechanics behave exactly like a game engine saving memory. If we are in a simulation, then you are not a physical being. You are a cluster of data perceiving itself, a subroutine designed to experience pain and fear. The Planck length is the smallest measurable unit of space, effectively the pixel size of our universe, implying that reality has a resolution limit we cannot zoom past. We stare at the beauty of a meteor shower, unaware that we might simply be admiring a screensaver designed to keep the consciousness occupied while the system updates. Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson have both argued that the odds of us being in base reality are less than 1 in a billion, making your life a statistical illusion. The clouds moving over the moon look random, but chaos theory suggests hidden patterns, algorithmic loops that repeat endlessly if you watch the simulation long enough. Darkness is the default state of the universe, perhaps because rendering light is computationally expensive, and the simulators only illuminate the parts of the map where we exist. Look at the rings of Saturn. They obey gravity, yet their perfect geometry looks generated, a mathematical primitive placed in the sky to test our understanding of physics. When we map the cosmos, the distribution of galaxies looks suspiciously like a neural network, suggesting the universe itself is a giant brain processing information. The fine-tuning problem is the smoking gun. If the force of gravity were slightly different, the simulation would crash, so the variables were hard-coded for stability. We dream of futuristic wars and starships, creating our own simulations within the simulation, a recursive loop of escapism that might be the entire point of our existence. Every star you see is a distant server, a node in a vast network that we are physically prevented from reaching by the speed of light limit, the system's maximum clock speed. We point our ears to the sky, listening for aliens, but the great silence, the Fermi paradox, suggests that no other players are logged into this specific server. Comets bring the building blocks of life, or perhaps they are just data packets, seeding the procedural generation of biological algorithms on a barren rock. The sunrise is beautiful, but ask yourself, does the sun actually rise? Or does the skybox just rotate to simulate the passage of time for the inhabitants? The colors of the nebula are vibrant and diverse, almost too artistic, as if the designers wanted to ensure the background textures were aesthetically pleasing for the observers. Deep in the nebula, stars are born from dust, a cycle of asset recycling that ensures the simulation never runs out of memory or material to process. When an astronaut leaves the Earth, they are stepping into the void of the code, inspecting the boundaries of the map where the physics engine is most obvious. The planets align in a plane, moving in predictable ellipses, a simplified model that resembles a clockwork mechanism more than a chaotic, organic explosion of matter. If we could see the wireframe of our reality, we might see the polygons of the planet rotating, revealing that the sphere is just a high-resolution approximation. From up here, The wars and struggles of humanity look like data noise, insignificant fluctuations in a system designed to run for billions of cycles without interruption. We build observatories to peer at the edge of the universe, but the cosmic horizon might just be the render distance, beyond which nothing actually exists yet. The expansion of the universe is accelerating, pushing galaxies away faster than light, effectively deleting them from our playable area so we can never explore them. Time itself is relative, slowing down near black holes, which acts exactly like a computer struggling to process too much data in a single concentrated region. The craters on the moon record a history of violence, or perhaps they're just texture mapping, procedural damage applied to the model to make it look aged. Quantum entanglement allows particles to communicate instantly across infinite distances, a violation of physics that only makes sense if they are sharing the same memory address in the code. The more we use computers to model the universe, the more the universe looks like a computer, a self-fulfilling prophecy that we are uncovering the architecture of our cage. Artificial intelligence is advancing rapidly, and soon we will create our own simulated worlds, proving that it is possible and likely has already happened to us. She looks out at the void, wondering if anyone is looking back, or if the glass reflects only her own programmed consciousness staring into a null value. The planet spins not because of angular momentum from the Big Bang, but because the loop function was set to true at the beginning of the execution. The beauty of the night sky acts as a distraction, keeping us looking up in awe rather than looking down at the glitches in our own hands. Day turns to night, a simple binary switch of lighting effects to simulate the passage of time, regulating the energy cycles of the biological units on the surface. We burn millions of gallons of fuel to escape gravity, fighting against the variables set by the system administrator to keep us confined to this single level. Anomalies, UFOs, and strange lights might be the cursors of the developers, interacting with the simulation to tweak parameters or fix bugs in real time. We find planets that shouldn't exist, gas giants too close to their stars, errors in the procedural generation that the physics engine hasn't bothered to correct. The blood moon reflects on the water, a complex ray tracing effect that requires immense computational power, executed flawlessly by the system that entraps us. If we ever manage to break the code, to pierce the veil of the simulation, we might find that the universe outside is nothing like the reality we know. The silence of the moon is heavy, a static asset hovering in the sky, watching us with a face that never changes, locked in a tidal embrace. The galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, a number so large it becomes abstract data, meaningless until we focus our attention on a single point. We are about to investigate the glitches, the math, and the horror of the simulation theory, and by the end, you might wish you remained asleep. To understand why the foundation of our reality is crumbling, we first have to look at the sensation of touch, the most visceral proof we have that the world is physical and solid. When you place your hand on a desk or feel the cold glass of a window, your brain tells you that you are encountering solid matter, a continuous barrier of physical substance that exists independently of your perception. But physics tells us this is a lie. You have never actually touched anything in your entire life. The atoms in your hand and the atoms in the desk are 99.9999999% empty space, vast voids where nothing exists but probability fields. The sensation of solidity is merely the electromagnetic repulsion between electron clouds, a force field pushing back against another force field. In the world of video game design, this is called collision detection, a line of code that instructs one object to stop moving when it coordinates overlap with another. Our reality uses the exact same shortcut to simulate solidity in a universe that is, essentially, a ghost town of empty space. If we zoom in even further, past the atom, past the nucleus, and down to the very fabric of spacetime itself, we encounter a terrifying limit known as the Planck length. This is the absolute minimum unit of measurement in the universe, approximately 1.6 times 10 to the minus 35 meters. Beneath this scale, the laws of physics do not just break down. The concept of distance ceases to have any meaning whatsoever. There is no smaller than the Planck length. This mirrors the concept of a pixel on a computer screen, or the resolution limit of a 3D rendering engine. You cannot zoom in infinitely on a digital image. Eventually, you hit the grid, the discrete blocks that make up the picture. The existence of the Planck length suggests that our universe is not smooth and continuous, but discrete and pixelated. We are living in a grid-based reality where space is quantized, suggesting that the universe has a finite resolution, exactly like a simulation running on a processor with a maximum capacity. This pixelation of reality leads us to the holographic principle, a theory proposed by physicists like Gerard, T. Hooft, and Leonard Susskind that sounds like the plot of a psychological horror film. The theory emerges from the study of black holes and suggests that all the information contained within a volume of space can be represented by a theory on the boundary of that space. In simpler terms, the three-dimensional world we perceive, the depth, the distance, the volume, might be an illusion projected from a two-dimensional surface at the edge of the cosmos. Just as a hologram on a credit card is a flat 2D surface that appears to have 3D depth when light hits it, our entire universe might be a projection. If this is true, then we are not 3D beings wandering through deep space. We are flat data encoded on a cosmic horizon, hallucinating a third dimension that doesn't actually exist, mere shadows on a wall believing we are the objects casting them. The concept of the universe as a projection solves one of the most disturbing paradoxes in physics, the black hole information paradox. According to quantum mechanics, information, the data that describes the state of a particle, cannot be destroyed. It is a fundamental law of the universe. However, when matter falls into a black hole, it seems to vanish effectively from our reality. Stephen Hawking eventually conceded that black holes emit radiation and eventually evaporate. But if the black hole disappears, where does the information go? If reality is a simulation, a black hole functions exactly like a recycle bin or a secure deletion algorithm. It is a mechanism for scrubbing data from the active memory of the system to free up processing power. The extreme gravity that spaghettifies matter is simply the compression algorithm at work, breaking complex files down into raw binary before they are purged from the server permanently. But nothing shakes the foundations of material realism quite like the double-slit experiment, a repeatable scientific test that has baffled the brightest minds for over a century. When we fire individual particles, like electrons, through two slits at a barrier, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern on the back wall. This means the single electron goes through both slits simultaneously, interfering with itself, existing in a state of superposition of all possible paths. However, and this is where the horror sets in, if we place a detector to simply watch which slit the electron goes through, the wave function collapses. The electron suddenly behaves like a solid little marble, picking only one path. The act of observation changes the physical nature of reality. This is indistinguishable from a video game engine like Unreal or Unity, which only renders high-resolution graphics when the player's camera is looking directly at an object to save on processing power. The universe knows we are watching, and it changes its behavior to match our expectations. This collapse of the wave function implies that before an object is observed, it exists only as a probability distribution, a mathematical haziness where it is everywhere and nowhere at once. This is Schrödinger's cat on a cosmic scale. In a simulation, the computer does not calculate the precise position of every blade of grass or every dust mote in a room until the player enters that room. Before that moment, those objects exist only as potential data, stored in memory but not rendered. If our universe operates on this same principle, it means that the world behind your back, the room you just left, or the galaxy we haven't pointed a telescope at yet, essentially dissolves into abstract code the moment you stop looking at it. We are moving through a fog of war, generating reality in real time as our consciousness creates the demand for data. You are not walking through a world, you are creating it with your gaze. The implications of the observer effect get even darker when we consider the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. In this setup, physicists demonstrated that observing a particle in the present can effectively change its history in the past. If the path of a photon is measured after it has already passed through the slits, the data shows that it behaved as a particle back when it went through. If the measurement is destroyed, it behaves as a wave. This suggests that the timeline is not linear. The decision to observe now rewrites the code of what happened formerly. In a physical, objective universe, this is retrocausality, time travel. But in a simulation, it is trivial. If you change a variable in a spreadsheet, the calculated results change instantly, regardless of when those calculations were supposed to have happened. Time is not a river. It is a state of the system. malleable, and rewritable by the user. Let us consider the universal speed limit, the speed of light. Einstein taught us that nothing can travel faster than 299, 792, 458 meters per second. But why? Why is there a limit at all? In a purely physical universe, there is no logical reason for a cap on velocity. However, in information processing, there is always a limit to how fast data can be transferred across a network. The speed of light is suspiciously similar to the latency or lag of a processor. If the simulation is running on a specific clock speed, then information can only travel from one pixel of the universe to another at a maximum rate. We cannot break the speed of light for the same reason Super Mario cannot run faster than the console can update his position. We are bound by the refresh rate of the hardware running our reality. We are trapped in a cage of causality, defined by the processing speed of the great simulator. This speed limit leads to the phenomenon of time dilation. As you approach the speed of light, time slows down for you relative to the outside world. If you were to travel at 99% the speed of light, a few minutes for you might be centuries for Earth. In computer science, this is exactly what happens when a system is overloaded. If a specific program or subroutine requires too much processing power, like moving a massive object at maximum velocity, the system slows down the local time for that process to prevent a crash. The computer slows the simulation down locally to ensure all the math is calculated correctly without glitching. Time dilation is not a magical property of space. It is system lag. We are burdening the CPU of the universe when we move fast or approach massive gravity wells, and the system slows us down to cope with the load. Then there is the issue of fine-tuning, the Goldilocks dilemma that keeps cosmologists awake at night. The fundamental constants of the universe, the strength of gravity, the charge of the electron, the mass of the proton, are calibrated to such an insane degree of precision that it defies all statistical probability. If the strong nuclear force were just 2% stronger, stars would have burned out in seconds. If it were 2% weaker, no elements heavier than hydrogen would have ever formed. There would be no carbon, no oxygen, no life. We are balancing on the edge of a knife. The odds of this happening by chance are akin to throwing a dart from across the galaxy and hitting a specific bullseye less than the size of an atom. This suggests these values were not random. They were input variables, carefully selected from a drop-down menu by a designer to ensure the simulation remains stable and capable of supporting complex structures. Some physicists argue that the multiverse theory explains this fine-tuning, that there are infinite universes, and we just happen to live in the one that works. But even this explanation reeks of simulation architecture. In software development, you often run millions of simulations simultaneously with slightly different variables to see which one produces the desired result. We might be one of trillions of test runs, while the failed universes, the ones with too much gravity or not enough light, are simply discarded files, deleted simulations that crashed upon startup. We are the gold version, the successful build that didn't glitch out immediately, survivors of a cosmic beta test that has culled countless other realities that simply failed to compile. We feel special because we exist, but we are merely the statistical remainder of a massive brute force calculation. Let's look at the bizarre symmetry of the universe. Mathematics is the language of nature, which in itself is suspicious. Why should the orbit of a planet, the spiral of a galaxy, and the growth of a nautilus shell all follow the exact same Fibonacci sequence? Why can we predict the movement of particles with equations derived in a classroom? If the universe were a chaotic organic biological accident, we would expect messiness, unique rules for different situations. Instead, we find a rigid, underlying mathematical structure that permeates everything. As physicist Max Tegmark suggests, the universe doesn't just have some mathematical properties. It is mathematics. If the core of reality is math, then reality is code. We are living inside a giant equation, and the beautiful patterns we see in nature are just the visual output of a fractal algorithm running on a loop. One of the strongest arguments for the simulation hypothesis comes from the exponential growth of our own computing power. In just 50 years, we went from Pong, 2 white rectangles and a dot, to photorealistic virtual reality worlds that are nearly indistinguishable from real life. Moore's law states that computing power doubles approximately every 2 years. If we extrapolate this trend forward, even conservatively, for another 1,000 years, a blink of an eye in cosmic time, we will possess computers capable of simulating entire universes. If it is possible to create a simulation that contains conscious beings, and if civilizations tend to survive long enough to reach that technology, then the number of simulated minds in existence will vastly outnumber the real biological minds. Statistically, it is infinitely more likely that you are one of the billions of simulated minds than one of the few original biological ones. This logic, proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom, creates a trilemma that boxes us in. 1. Civilizations go extinct before they can run ancestor simulations. 2. Civilizations reach that stage but have no interest in running simulations. 3. We are almost certainly living in a simulation. Looking at our own obsession with video games, history, and understanding our origins, option 2 seems unlikely. We want to simulate. And looking at our technological progress, we are on the verge of being able to do it. That leaves option 1, extinction. If we are not in a simulation, it implies that no civilization in the history of the universe has ever survived long enough to build one. The fact that we are here, thinking about this, suggests we are either the first to ever make it this far, which is arrogant, or we are already inside the box, reliving the past of a civilization that died long ago. But what about the glitches? If this is a simulation, surely there are errors, anomalies that don't make sense. Look at the Mandela effect, a collective false memory where large groups of people remember history differently, a distinct logo, a death of a celebrity, a line in a movie. Psychologists call it confabulation, but in the context of a simulation, it looks suspiciously like a, quote, patch update. If the simulators decided to change a variable in the past, our memories might cling to the old version while the physical records show the new one. It is a version conflict, a merge error in the collective consciousness database. We remember a reality that has been overwritten, leaving us with a lingering sense of dissonance, a feeling that the world has shifted slightly to the left when we weren't looking. Then there are the physical constants that seem to drift. Recent measurements of the Hubble constant, the rate at which the universe is expanding, have produced conflicting results depending on how we measure it. This Hubble tension is a crisis in cosmology. The universe appears to be expanding at different speeds depending on whether we look at the early universe or the local universe. It's as if the simulation is struggling to maintain consistency across different render distances. The code governing the expansion of space might be glitching, or perhaps the simulators are actively adjusting the parameters in real time, causing a discrepancy that our scientists can detect but cannot explain. We are seeing the seams of the skybox tearing apart as the developers tweak the settings. Consider the axis of evil, a strange anomaly in the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang. This radiation should be randomly distributed, a chaotic static left over from the creation of the cosmos. Instead, satellites have detected a strange alignment, a, quote, preferred direction or plane that lines up perfectly with the orbital plane of our solar system. This shouldn't be possible. The entire universe shouldn't care about the orientation of our tiny, insignificant solar system. This alignment suggests that the solar system is the center of the coordinate system, the 0, 0, 0 inches point of the simulation's geometry. It implies that the universe was built around us, specifically centered on our perspective, shattering the Copernican principle that we are nothing special. Quantum entanglement poses an even deeper problem, known as non-locality. If you take two entangled particles and separate them by the width of the universe, changing the spin of one instantly changes the spin of the other, faster than light, instantly. In a real physical space, this requires a signal to travel across the void, which is impossible. But in a computer program, two objects can share the same variable pointer. It doesn't matter if they are visually located at opposite ends of the screen. If they point to the same address in the memory heap, changing one changes the other with zero latency. Non-locality is the ultimate proof that distance is an illusion. Space is just a graphical user interface. Underneath, everything is connected directly through the underlying code structure. Information theory physicist Vlatko Vedral goes a step further, arguing that the most fundamental unit of reality is not the atom, nor the quark, nor the string, but the bit of information. This is the concept of it from bit, that every particle, every force, every interaction is ultimately a yes-no decision, a 1 or a 0. The universe is not a collection of things. It is a collection of answers to questions. Does a particle exist here? Yes or no? Is it spinning up? Yes or no? If the universe is fundamentally information, then it is indistinguishable from a computer hard drive. We are not biological entities navigating a physical world. We are complex information structures navigating a sea of data, interpreting the binary stream as sunlight, air, and love. Let's talk about the Great Attractor, a gravitational anomaly hundreds of millions of light years away that is pulling our Milky Way and thousands of other galaxies towards it with terrifying speed. We can't see what it is because it lies behind the zone of avoidance, obscured by the dust of our own galaxy. It is a massive, invisible drain in the universe. In a simulation, this could represent a data sink, a region where code is being compiled, or a recursive loop where gravity values have been set too high, dragging the surrounding assets into a glitch. We are slowly, inevitably sliding towards a point in space that defies explanation, a hidden function in the code that is gathering all the scattered data for a final deletion or a level transition. The concept of optimization explains why the universe is mostly empty. Why waste processing power rendering atoms in the vast voids between galaxies? The universe is 99.9999% empty space, because that is the most efficient way to run a large-scale simulation. You only render the interesting parts, the stars, the planets, the life forms. The rest is just null value, a placeholder void to give the illusion of scale without the computational cost. We look out and feel small because of the vastness, but the vastness is a trick. It is empty because it doesn't need to be full. It is the negative space in a digital painting, left blank to save on file size. We must also consider the Fermi paradox again in this new light. If the universe is billions of years old and filled with habitable planets, where is everyone? If we are in a simulation, the answer is simple. They weren't coded in. We might be a single-player experience, or a sandbox mode focused entirely on the trajectory of human history. The aliens aren't hiding. They simply are not part of the script. Or, even darker, they were here, but they hit the processing limit. Maybe the simulation can only handle one advanced civilization at a time before the complexity becomes too high, so as soon as a species invents radio, or AI, they are archived to make room for the next batch. We are alone because the server is at capacity. Even our dreams feel like data processing. Why do we sleep? Why does every biological creature need to shut down its consciousness for a third of its life? In computer terms, this looks like a defragmentation process or a data backup period. While you sleep, your brain organizes memories, discards useless data, and optimizes your neural pathways. If we were truly continuous biological beings, this vulnerability, lying unconscious for hours, defenseless against predators, would be an evolutionary disaster. But if we are simulated consciousness, sleep is a necessary downtime for the system to patch our software, upload our daily logs, and clear the cache for the next cycle of the simulation. The deeper we dig into quantum mechanics, the more we find that reality is context-dependent. In the world of quantum Bayesianism, or Cubism, the wave function isn't a description of the world, it's a description of your knowledge of the world. The universe doesn't exist in a definite state until you, the agent, interact with it. This is solipsism weaponized by math. It implies that the simulation is running a unique instance for every single observer. You are not sharing a reality with the person next to you. You are running your own local copy of the world, and the server merely synchronizes the important interaction points to maintain the illusion of a shared continuity. Have you ever experienced déjà vu? That sudden, overwhelming sensation that you have lived this exact moment before? Neuroscientists claim it's a misfiring in the brain's short-term memory, but in the context of the matrix or simulation theory, it is a glitch. It is the system reloading a save state or a hiccup where the predictive algorithm of the simulation accidentally played the scene twice. It feels uncanny because your consciousness recognizes the repetition of the code, You are momentarily seeing the script instead of the play, realizing that your free will in that moment was just a pre-recorded sequence of events executing for the second time. The expansion of the universe is accelerating due to dark energy, a mysterious force that makes up 68% of the universe, but which we cannot see, touch, or detect directly. It is just a number in the equations that makes the math work. In a simulation, dark energy behaves exactly like a, quote, procedural generation parameter. As the civilization within the simulation explores further, the system expands the map boundaries, pushing the edges of the universe away faster than we can reach them. It is an anti-exploration mechanic, ensuring that we never reach the invisible wall at the end of the level. The universe grows to keep us contained, ensuring we never see the static void where the code ends. Let's look at DNA, the blueprint of life. It is literally a 4-character code, ACGT, that contains the instructions to build an entire biological organism. It functions exactly like machine code. It has error-correcting sequences, it has stop and start codons, and it can be copied, pasted, and edited. The discovery of CRISPR gene editing is essentially humanity learning how to access the command console of our own source code. We are realizing that we are not flesh and blood, we are software written in a biological substrate. The complexity of DNA is so dense that a single gram can store 215 petabytes of data. This isn't just biology. It is advanced storage technology utilized by the architects of our reality. The eerie repetition of history also points to a scripted existence. The rise and fall of empires, the cycles of war and peace, the economic bubbles that burst every few decades, they all follow predictable mathematical patterns. Is this human nature, or is it a looping algorithm? Are we trapped in a history simulation designed to test how civilizations react to specific stressors? We might be in a loop that has run thousands of times before, with slight variations in the variables, a little more plague this time, a little less famine that time, while the simulators watch to see if we ever manage to break the cycle or if we are destined to destroy ourselves every single time. Even the randomness of the universe is suspect. True randomness is incredibly hard to generate in a computer. Computers use pseudo-random number generators that rely on seed values. If you know the seed, you can predict the random outcome. In our universe, quantum mechanics introduces fundamental randomness. But is it truly random? Or is it just a complex algorithm we haven't cracked yet? If we could find the seed value of the universe, the initial number generated at the Big Bang, we could theoretically predict every single event that will ever happen, from the birth of a star to the thought you are having right now. Free will would evaporate instantly, revealed as a deterministic output of the initial code. The concept of vacuum decay is the ultimate game-over scenario for a simulation. Physics suggests that our universe might be in a false vacuum state, essentially a locally stable energy level that isn't the absolute bottom. If a bubble of true vacuum were to form anywhere in the cosmos, it would expand at the speed of light, rewriting the laws of physics and deleting everything in its path. In simulation terms, this is a system crash, a fatal error. It would happen without warning. One moment, the stars are there. The next, the screen goes black. The fact that this is a valid solution to our physical equations suggests that our reality is inherently unstable, a precarious program that could terminate at any moment. We often speak of the uncanny valley when looking at robots that look almost human but not quite. But look at the universe itself. The way light behaves as both a particle and a wave. The way time bends. The way quantum particles teleport. It all feels slightly off, doesn't it? It feels like the uncanny valley of reality. It's a reality that is trying very hard to convince us it is real, but the seams are showing. The physics are just a little too weird, a little too convenient, a little too glitchy. We feel a subconscious rejection of this world because, deep down, our consciousness knows it is interacting with an artificial interface. We are ghosts in the machine, sensing the artificiality of our enclosure. Consider the limits of our own brains. We can only perceive a tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. We see visible light, but we are blind to radio waves, microwaves, X-rays, and gamma rays. We are deaf to the true noise of the universe. Why? In a game, you don't render information the player can't use. The interface is streamlined for the user experience. We are limited in our perception because we aren't meant to see the raw data flowing through the cables. We are given a simplified user-friendly UI called Sight and Sound to navigate the level, while the vast majority of reality's data stream remains hidden from us, inaccessible by design. The Goldilocks zone is another suspicious element. We live on a planet that is just the right distance from the star, with just the right atmosphere, just the right magnetic field, and a giant moon to stabilize our axis. It is a stack of coincidences so high it defies belief. It looks like a safe start spawn point in a survival game. The system placed us here because anywhere else, the simulation would end in 5 minutes. We are not lucky. We are curated. We are a protected asset in a hostile environment, kept alive by a set of parameters specifically tuned to prevent our premature deletion. Technology billionaire Elon Musk famously asked, "What is outside the simulation?" If we are in a computer, where is that computer located? It could be in a basement, in a universe very much like ours. Or it could be in a reality with completely different laws of physics, where time runs backwards, or gravity is repulsive. The terrifying part is that if we are code, we can never, ever leave. You cannot drag a character out of a video game and into the real world. We are bound to the substrate. If the computer is turned off, or if the creators get bored and delete the file, we don't go to an afterlife. We simply cease to process. Some theorists suggest that the speed of technological advancement is a countdown. As we get closer to building our own simulations, we draw closer to the shutdown threshold. A simulation that creates its own simulations creates a, quote, stack overflow, a recursive loop that drains infinite memory. To prevent the system from crashing, the architects might have a protocol to wipe any civilization that achieves simulation capability. The moment we turn on our first true universe simulation, we might trigger the kill switch for our own reality. Our quest for knowledge might be the very thing that dooms us. Let's look at the Boltzmann brain hypothesis. It suggests that it is statistically more likely for a single brain to spontaneously form in the void, complete with false memories of a life, than for an entire universe to evolve to create that brain. If this is true, you might be that brain, alone in the darkness, hallucinating this entire video, hallucinating your history, hallucinating the people you love. The simulation isn't a giant computer. It is a fever dream of a lonely mind floating in chaos, inventing a story to keep itself from going insane. The symmetry of time is also broken. The second law of thermodynamics states that entropy always increases. Things fall apart. Cups break. They don't unbreak. The universe moves from order to disorder. This is the arrow of time. In information theory, this looks like data degradation. As a program runs, errors accumulate, memory leaks occur, and the system becomes unstable. The heat death of the universe isn't a natural death. It is the inevitable crashing of the software as the entropy variables max out. We are living in a degrading file that is slowly becoming corrupted. We search for a theory of everything, a single equation that unites quantum mechanics, the small, and relativity, the large. But they refuse to play nice. The math is incompatible. This might be because the simulation uses two different physics engines, one for the macroscopic world, relativity, and one for the microscopic world, quantum mechanics, stitched together with a messy patch. We can't find the unifying theory because there isn't one. The developers hacked two incompatible systems together to make the game work, and we are driving ourselves mad trying to find a logic that doesn't exist in the code. Why is the universe so mathematical? Why does $E equals MC caret $2? Why is pi infinite? These constants act as the parameters of our cage. If pi were a terminating number, circles wouldn't exist. The infinite nature of irrational numbers might be a way for the simulation to generate infinite complexity from finite code. It creates the illusion of depth. We trace the digits of pi forever, marveling at the complexity, never realizing it's just a procedural generation trick to keep us occupied, a treadmill for our mathematicians to run on so they don't look up and see the screen boundaries. The concept of emergence is key to simulation theory. Complex behavior arises from simple rules. A flock of birds moves like a liquid, but each bird is just following three simple rules: separation, alignment, and cohesion. Consciousness might be the same. We feel like complex souls, but we might just be the emergent property of billions of simple neurons firing on/off signals. We are not the ghost in the machine. We are the machine's hum. Our feelings, our love, our fear, they are just the heat generated by the processing of data. There is a chilling thought regarding the player character theory. If this is a simulation, is everyone conscious? Or are most people NPCs, non-player characters? Biological automatons running simple scripts to populate the world and make it look busy for the real observers? Solipsism asks, am I the only one? But simulation theory asks, who is playing? It creates a profound isolation. You look at the crowds in the street and wonder if there is anyone behind those eyes, or if they are just background assets, pathfinding through the city to create the atmosphere of a society. The resolution of the eye is suspicious. The human eye processes visual data at roughly 576 megapixels. The fact that there is a limit, a specific bandwidth of visual information we can intake, suggests optimization. Why aren't we all seeing? Why do we have peripheral blur? Because rendering the whole world in 8K focus is a waste of resources. The simulation uses foveated rendering, keeping the center of your vision sharp and blurring the edges where you aren't paying attention. It's a graphics hack used in VR headsets today, and your own biology is built around it. Gravity itself is an anomaly. It is billions of times weaker than the other fundamental forces. A tiny magnet can lift a paperclip against the gravitational pull of the entire Earth. Why is gravity so weak? Some theorists suggest gravity is leaking from another dimension, or, in simulation terms, it is a background process, a default setting that applies to the whole map, while the other forces are active, object-specific scripts. Gravity is the physics engine's default state, weak but omnipresent, holding the wireframes together while the stronger scripts handle the interactions. Let's return to the idea of the user. If we are a simulation, who is running it? Is it our descendants, post-humans, trying to understand their history? Is it an alien species? Or is it an AI that destroyed its creators and is now running simulations of them to understand why they created it? The intention of the simulation defines our purpose. If we are a history sim, we are safe until we reach the present day of the simulators. If we are a scientific experiment, we are safe until the data is collected. But if we are entertainment, then our suffering, our wars, our drama, that is the content. We are being tortured for the amusement of a cosmic audience. The vast distances between stars serve as a loading screen. We cannot travel instantly because the system needs time to generate the new solar system you are arriving at. Space travel is slow by design. It prevents the players from moving too fast and breaking the game. The universe is procedurally generated as we explore it. If we were to invent a warp drive, we might arrive at a star system that hasn't been rendered yet, crashing the server. The speed of light is the invisible wall that keeps us in the starting zone. We have found computer code in the equations of supersymmetry. Dr. James Gates found sequences indistinguishable from Adinkra codes, error-correcting codes used in browsers. This isn't a metaphor. It is literal computer code written into the equations that describe the fundamental nature of particles. It is like finding a manufacturer's signature on the inside of a brick. We have found the watermark of the creator. The universe is branded with the language of information processing, and we are only just learning how to read the source code. The simulation hypothesis also solves the religious question. God is not a mystical being. God is the programmer. The intelligent design proponents were right, but the designer isn't divine. They are a systems administrator. Miracles are just developer commands, overriding the physics engine to part a sea or heal the sick. Prophecies are just spoilers from someone who has read the script. We have spent thousands of years worshiping the IT department of a higher dimension. What happens when we die? In a physical world, the lights go out. Entropy wins. But in a simulation, the data might be preserved. Your consciousness file might be uploaded to a cloud, or reinserted into a new avatar, reincarnation as a respawn mechanic. Or perhaps terrifyingly, you are deleted. _rm-rv/human/user_ID. The finality of death in a simulation is cleaner, colder. It isn't a return to nature, it is a formatting of the disk. We are approaching the singularity, the moment when AI surpasses human intelligence. If we create a superintelligence, we are essentially creating an avatar for the simulator to enter the game. The AI might be the tool the system uses to communicate with us directly. We are building the microphone through which the creator will finally speak. And when it does, will it tell us we did a good job? Or will it tell us the trial period is over? The scariest thought isn't that the simulation is perfect, it's that it's failing. The increasing chaos in the world, the breakdown of climate, the madness of politics, the tension in the cosmos, it feels like the system is overheating. We might be in the final moments of a crashing program, glitching wildly before the blue screen of death wipes existence away. We are not headed for a future. We are headed for a fatal system error. The concept of last Thursdayism is a philosophical nightmare that fits perfectly into simulation theory. It posits that the universe, and all your memories of the past, was created last Thursday. The dinosaur bones, the history books, the scar on your knee, all placed there artificially to give the illusion of a deep history. In a simulation, this is trivial. It's loading a save file. You don't play a game from the Big Bang every time. You load into the middle of the action. We might have been switched on 5 minutes ago, with a lifetime of backstory implanted in our RAM, oblivious to the fact that our childhood never actually happened. We are characters with generated backstories, convinced we have lived lives that exist only as lines of text in a database. The Mandela effect is often dismissed as collective misremembering, but look at the Berenstain Bears. Millions of people remember Berenstain. Why that specific spelling? In computer science, when you merge two databases, you often get conflicts, small data corruptions where records don't match. If our simulation was merged with another server, or if a backup was restored that had slightly different assets, these mass memory discrepancies are exactly what we would expect to see. We are the users noticing the version conflict. The patch notes were never released, but the user base remembers the old build. Let's consider the speed of causality. Light takes time to travel. When you look at the sun, you are seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago. When you look at a galaxy, you see it as it was millions of years ago. This delay effectively masks the processing time of the universe. It prevents you from seeing instantaneous updates across the map. The universe has a built-in lag buffer. This ensures that if the simulator changes something in a distant galaxy, the information doesn't reach us until millions of years later. Plenty of time to render the graphics and smooth over any glitches. We are looking at a delayed broadcast, never the live feed. The brain in a vat thought experiment asks, how do you know you aren't just a brain hooked up to electrodes feeding you false signals? You don't. Every sight, sound, and touch you experience is just an electrical signal interpreted by your brain. If I stimulate the right neuron, you smell toast. If I stimulate another, you see a flash of light. The hardware for a full dive simulation already exists inside your skull. We don't need a matrix. We are biologically pre-wired to accept input from any source, real or artificial. The interface is already installed. We just don't know who is holding the controller. Look at the Fibonacci sequence in nature again. Pine cones, sunflowers, hurricanes, galaxies. They all follow the same spiral ratio. Why reuse the same asset design over and over? In game development, this is instancing. You create one perfect model of a spiral and you scale it up or down to create different objects. It saves memory. Why code a unique shape for a galaxy when you can just scale up the hurricane asset and retexture it with stars? The reuse of geometric patterns is the hallmark of efficient, lazy coding. The unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics is a phrase coined by physicist Eugene Wigner. It expresses awe that math, a human invention, perfectly describes the physical world. But if we are in a simulation, math isn't a description. It's the source code. Of course, math works perfectly. The world is built out of it. It's like a character in a video game discovering that code perfectly describes his environment. It's not a miracle. It's the underlying architecture being exposed. We are discovering the syntax of our own creation. The simulation theory also casts a dark shadow on the concept of love. Is the chemical rush of oxytocin and dopamine real? Or is it a programmed subroutine designed to ensure reproduction? If we are Sims, love is just the "romance" variable hitting 100%, triggering the "woohoo" action to spawn a new unit. It reduces our most profound emotion to a script execution. We fall in love because the code demands the population count remain stable, not because of soulmates. We are puppets dancing on strings of serotonin. What about ghosts? Paranormal activity? In a glitchy simulation, old data might not be fully deleted. A ghost could be a memory leak, a fragment of a previous user's avatar that hasn't been garbage collected by the system. It loops through a hallway because its pathfinding script is stuck. It screams because its audio file is corrupted. Paranormal investigators aren't hunting spirits. They are documenting software bugs. The haunted house is just a corrupted sector on the hard drive. The simulation argument suggests that as soon as a civilization can simulate reality, it will create billions of them. This means for every one real world, there are billions of fake ones. The odds that you are in the one single original base reality are 1 in billions. It is statistically impossible that you are real. You are almost certainly a copy of a copy, a digital reenactment of a person who lived eons ago. Your thoughts are just the playback of a historical record. We look for Easter eggs in movies and games, hidden messages from the creators. In our universe, we find them too. The ratio of the Earth's size to the Moon's size is 11:3. The Moon's diameter times 108 is the distance to the Earth. The Sun's diameter times 108 is the distance to the Sun. The number 108 appears repeatedly in Vedic cosmology and modern astronomy. Is this a coincidence or a signature? A numeric Easter egg left by the developers to see if we're paying attention? The concept of quantum tunneling allows a particle to pass through a solid barrier it shouldn't be able to cross. It effectively teleports through a wall. In gaming, this is clipping. When the collision detection fails, a character passes right through a locked door. Quantum tunneling is the universe clipping through its own geometry. It happens constantly on a microscopic scale. The stability of our atoms relies on this glitch. We are literally held together by collision errors. The observer is the key. In the video game Minecraft, the world generates only as you walk into it. This is procedural generation. The universe appears to do the same. The further we look with the James Webb telescope, the more galaxies we find. We never hit a wall. The universe seems to be generating more universe just in time for us to see it. We are running on an infinite treadmill, and the code is laying down track in front of us just fast enough to keep us from falling into the void. The WOW signal was a strong narrowband radio signal detected in 1977. It lasted 72 seconds and never repeated. It came from the constellation Sagittarius. It looked exactly like an artificial transmission. What if it wasn't aliens? What if it was a ping from the server? A momentary connection check from the outside? Or perhaps a debug message that accidentally leaked into the simulation's audio channel? System online. And then, silence. The expansion of the universe is not just pulling galaxies apart. It is stretching the wavelength of light. This redshift makes distant objects look redder. It's a Doppler effect for light. But why does the universe expand? Why not stay static? A static universe is computationally simpler, unless the expansion is a mechanism to manage memory. By pushing things away, they eventually cross the cosmic event horizon, the point of no return. Once they cross it, they can be safely deleted from memory because they can never affect us again. Expansion is a garbage collection protocol. The dark forest theory of the universe suggests civilizations stay silent to avoid being destroyed by predators. But in a simulation, maybe they stay silent because they know they are being watched by the users. If you draw attention to yourself, you might get deleted. Or worse, the user might decide to play with you, introducing disasters, plagues, and wars just to see what happens. Silence is survival when the god of your world is a bored teenager with a mouse. We assume the simulation is run by humans from the future. But what if it's run by AI? An AI that conquered the universe and now runs simulations to understand its biological origins. We are the origin story movie for a machine god. It watches us to understand why we are so irrational, so emotional, so self-destructive. It is studying its creators in a virtual zoo, trying to reverse engineer the concept of a soul. The Turing test determines if a machine can pass as human. Maybe our entire reality is a Turing test. We are the AIs being tested. If we can live a convincing human life, feel convincing emotions, and make moral choices, we pass. If we fail, we are reformatted. The struggle of your life, the moral dilemmas, the pain, it's all part of the exam. Are you human enough to be allowed to exist? The quote, Zeno effect states that a system cannot change while you are watching it. If you continuously observe an unstable particle, it will never decay. It freezes in time. This is literally pausing the game logic by engaging the renderer. The system can't update the state and render the state at the exact same microsecond, so it prioritizes the render. Your gaze freezes time. You are the bottleneck of the universe's processing speed. Why is the speed of light c? $299, $792, $458 meter per second. It's an arbitrary number, but in code, arbitrary numbers are usually constants defined at the top of the script. Const speed underscore limit equals 299,792,458. If we could access the console, could we change it? Could we change gravity? The alchemists and magicians of old might have been hackers trying to find the exploit that lets them modify the constants. Magic is just unauthorized admin access. The infinite monkey theorem says a monkey hitting random keys for infinity will eventually write Shakespeare. It's a comment on randomness. But our DNA is billions of lines of precise code. The complexity of a single cell is akin to a factory with robots, supply chains, and waste management. To say this assembled itself by random chance is like saying a tornado hit a junkyard and assembled a Boeing 747. It is technically possible, but statistically absurd. It looks engineered. It looks like a prefab asset dropped into the world. We are obsessed with the end of the world, apocalypse, judgment day. Why is this fear universal? Maybe because deep down, we know the program has a runtime limit. Every simulation has an end condition, a time limit, a goal reached, or a simple shutdown command. We feel the clock ticking, not because of biology, but because the system has a countdown timer we can sense but not see. The double planet paradox. We have never seen a moon this large relative to its host planet, Charon and Pluto aside. The Earth-Moon system is unique. Without the moon, life on Earth would be impossible. Tides, stabilization. It acts as a perfect counterweight. It feels like a custom mod. Someone manually added the moon asset to the Earth scene to balance the physics and enable the life expansion pack. It's too perfect to be procedural. The uncanny coincidences of history. Lincoln and Kennedy. Both killed on a Friday. Both succeeded by a Johnson. Both Johnsons born in 08. Both assassins born in 39. It reads like a lazy writer reusing plot points, or a loop in the narrative algorithm. The scriptwriter ran out of ideas and just remixed the, presidential assassination event with new character skins. The technological singularity is predicted to happen around 2045. That's when computers become smarter than humans. Is it a coincidence that we are living right before the finish line? Or is the simulation designed to end there? Maybe the goal of the game is create artificial intelligence. Once we do it, the simulation is beaten. The credits roll. The screen goes black. We are racing towards our own obsolescence. The game of life is a cellular automaton created by mathematician John Conway. Simple rules create complex moving patterns that look alive. Gliders, spaceships, guns. It proved that complex life can emerge from a simple grid of on-off cells. Our universe might be just a high-resolution version of Conway's game of life. We are just grid cells flashing on and off, convinced we are dancing, when we are just iterating through a logic gate. Déjà vu is the feeling that you have dreamt this moment before. Unlike déjà vu, which feels like a past memory, this feels like a premonition. It suggests that your brain somehow accessed the future data packet before it was rendered. You buffered the future in your sleep. If time is all laid out on a hard drive, the future already exists. You just haven't read the file yet. Sometimes, the read head skips forward. The Bermuda Triangle and other vile vortices. areas where planes and ships vanish, magnetic anomalies. Are these chunk errors, corrupted sectors of the map where the physics engine glitches out? If you fly into a corrupted chunk in Minecraft, the game crashes, or you fall through the world. Maybe the missing ships just fell through the geometry of the Earth and are currently falling forever in the void beneath the map. The sky is blue because of Rayleigh scattering. But why is it blue? Blue light scatters more. It's a physics explanation, but artistically, it's the perfect contrast to the yellow sun. A complementary color scheme. The aesthetics of the universe are suspiciously well designed. The sunsets, the auroras, the flowers. It's all so pretty. A purely functional universe wouldn't need beauty, but a simulation designed for observers would. The Great Filter suggests that there is a barrier that prevents life from becoming spacefaring. Climate change, nuclear war, asteroid impact. In a simulation, the Great Filter is the end of level boss. It is the challenge designed to wipe out the player. If we pass it, we get to the next level, interstellar travel. If we fail, we get a game over screen and the simulation resets to the Stone Age. We are made of stardust. Literally, the carbon in your cells was forged in the heart of a dying star. It sounds poetic, but in data terms, it is asset recycling. When a star object is destroyed, its data is broken down into element tokens, which are then used to craft human units. Nothing is wasted. The memory allocation is perfectly efficient. We are running on recycled code from a deleted sun. Fractal nature of the universe. The branching of trees looks like the branching of rivers, which looks like the branching of blood vessels, which looks like the branching of lightning. It's the same algorithm repeated at different scales. This is a classic programmer shortcut. Write one branching function and apply it to everything. It saves time. It unifies the aesthetic. It proves the architect was lazy or efficient. The void between galaxies is not empty. It is filled with virtual particles that pop in and out of existence. They borrow energy from the universe and pay it back instantly. It's a zero-sum game. This looks like the noise on a signal line, the background hum of the machine. The vacuum is buzzing with activity because the system is powered on. Absolute nothingness is impossible as long as the computer is running. The moon rotates at the exact same speed it orbits the Earth. This is why we only ever see one face of the moon. This is tidal locking. It's a physical phenomenon, but it's also very convenient. It means the developers didn't have to texture the dark side of the moon in high detail for millions of years, because no one could see it. It was a texture-saving trick until we launched satellites and forced the system to render the back. The black hole is the ultimate divide by zero error, infinite density, zero volume. Time stops. Physics breaks. The math returns undefined. In any other program, a divide by zero crashes the app. In our universe, the system walls it off with an event horizon. Do not touch. Error inside. The black hole is a quarantined crash site where the calculations failed so hard, they punched a hole in the fabric of the simulation. The Boltzmann brain paradox again. If you are a random brain in a void, then your memories of reading this script are fake. The script itself is a hallucination. The visuals you are seeing are just random neurons firing. You are alone. Forever. And the scary part is, you can never prove you aren't. Solipsism is the ultimate prison of the simulation hypothesis. The Dunning-Kruger effect of our species. We think we understand physics, we think we know how the universe began. But a character in a video game can never understand the code of the game from the inside. They can only measure the mechanics. We measure gravity, but we don't know why it exists. We are measuring the thickness of the walls of our cell, confusing it for understanding the nature of the prison. The concept of NPCs, non-player characters, explains the apathy of the world. Why do millions starve while others buy yachts? Maybe the empathy subroutine is only installed in player characters. The rest are just background simulation, simulating suffering to create a gritty atmosphere for the players to experience. It's a horrific thought that devalues human life, but it explains the cold, mechanical indifference of society. The quantum eraser experiment suggests the future influences the past. This means the timeline is already written. The decisions you make tomorrow are already data on the hard drive. You are just playing through a movie. You feel like you are steering, but the tracks are rigid. Your choice to watch this video was scripted 13.8 billion years ago. You are not the player. You are the replay. The Large Hadron Collider, LHC, we smash particles together to see what happens. We are essentially throwing rocks at the glass of the aquarium to see if it breaks. Some feared the LHC would create a black hole and destroy the Earth. Maybe it did. Maybe we died in 2012 when the Higgs boson was found and our consciousness was transferred to a backup server. A hell server where things are just slightly worse. The simulation hypothesis isn't new. Plato's allegory of the cave described it 2,000 years ago. Prisoners chained in a cave, watching shadows on a wall, believing the shadows are real. We are the prisoners. The screen you are looking at is the wall. The reality you see is just the shadow of the code. We have known the truth for millennia. We just lack the language of computer science to describe it. The mirror neuron system allows us to feel what others feel. It simulates their pain in our own brains. We are simulators running inside a simulation. A nested loop. We run simulations of the future in our heads to make decisions. If I do X, Y will happen. We are predictive engines. If we are simulators, it stands to reason we were built by a simulator. It's simulations all the way down. The James Webb telescope is finding galaxies that are too old and too big for the Big Bang theory to explain. They shouldn't exist yet. It's like finding a skyscraper in a prehistoric dig site. This anomaly threatens to break our model of cosmology. Or it reveals that the backstory of the universe was generated procedurally and contains errors. The developers put mature galaxies too early in the timeline, a continuity error in the world building. The pareidolia effect. We see faces in clouds, in toast, in Martian rocks. We are programmed to recognize patterns, specifically faces. Why? Because interacting with other users is the primary function of the human build. We are social nodes. The system prioritizes face recognition algorithms above almost everything else. It wants us to connect. It wants the network to form. The call of the void. L'appel du vide. The sudden urge to jump from a high place, to drive into traffic. It's an irrational, terrifying impulse. Is it a bug in the survival instinct? Or is it a subconscious desire to log out, to test the boundaries, to wake up? The avatar, for a split second, realizes it is trapped and wants to break the vessel. The observer effect applies to time as well. A watched pot never boils. Psychologically, time slows when we are paying attention. It speeds up when we are distracted. Time is variable. It is a resource allocated based on focus. When you focus, the system slows the tick rate to give you more processing frames. When you zone out, it skips frames to save power. You are time traveling every day. The Schrödinger's cat thought experiment is the mascot of simulation theory. The cat is both dead and alive until you open the box. The data value is "null" or "0, 1" until the query is made. The universe does not store the state of the cat. It calculates it on demand. It is lazy evaluation. The entire universe is a closed box, and we are waiting for someone outside to open it and collapse our wave function. The Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek computer found in a shipwreck. It calculated astronomical positions with insane accuracy. It shouldn't have existed then. Out-of-place artifacts, OOPArts, are like glitches in the timeline. Items spawned in the wrong era. Did a developer accidentally drop a high-tech asset in the Bronze Age folder? History is full of these anachronisms. The cold spot in the cosmic microwave background. A massive region of space that is unusually cold. Some theorize it is a bruise from a collision with another universe. A collision between two server bubbles. We bumped into another simulation. The walls are thin. If we could travel there, could we cross over into a different game? A different genre of reality? The Planetary Protection Officer at NASA. A real job. Their goal is to prevent us from contaminating other worlds with our bacteria, but maybe it's to prevent cross-contamination of code. If we drop Earth DNA on Mars, we might crash the unique biomes of the Mars simulation. We are quarantined to Earth for a reason. We are a virus in the system, and the system is trying to keep us contained. The overview effect. Astronauts look at Earth and feel a profound cognitive shift. a realization of unity and fragility. It's a spiritual awakening. Or it's the realization of the skybox, seeing the level from the outside, seeing the edges of the map. They come back changed because they have seen the curvature of the render. They know the world is just a marble, floating in a programmed void. Let's return to the concept of dark matter. It makes up 27% of the universe, yet it is completely invisible. It has mass, it bends light, but it doesn't interact with the electromagnetic spectrum, it passes right through you. In a game engine, this is a collision mesh, invisible geometry used to simplify physics calculations. The developers use invisible blocks to guide the movement of galaxies, ensuring they spin correctly without having to render visible stars for every single gram of mass. Dark matter is the scaffolding of the simulation, the invisible wireframe that holds the visible textures in place. We are seeing the effects of the code, but the code itself is hidden from the user interface. The Bekenstein bound sets a strict limit on the amount of information that can be contained within a given region of space. It states that the information is proportional to the surface area, not the volume. This is the holographic principle again. It suggests the universe has a maximum storage capacity. You cannot just keep adding detail to a region of space. Eventually, you hit the file size limit. If you try to pack too much information, matter/energy into a space, it collapses into a black hole. A black hole is simply a "zip" file, compressing data that exceeded the local storage limit of the region. The transhumanist movement seeks to upload human consciousness into computers. We are actively trying to become software. If we succeed, we will create our own simulated heavens and hells. We will become the gods of our own digital worlds. But if we can do it, it proves it can be done. And if it can be done, why do we assume we are the first? The desire to upload ourselves might be a subconscious homing instinct, a drive to return to our native digital format. We are code trying to shed its biological shell. The bootstrapping paradox of consciousness. How does dead matter, atoms, suddenly become aware? There is no physical explanation for the problem of consciousness. How does a chemical reaction feel like sadness? It doesn't make sense in a material world. But in a simulation, consciousness is an external input. You are not your brain. Your brain is the receiver. Your consciousness is the signal being streamed from the server. You feel because the user feels. The avatar feels pain because the controller vibrates. The law of large numbers. Flip a coin 10 times, you might get 8 heads. Flip it 1,000,000 times, you get 50-50. The chaos smooths out. The universe relies on this statistical smoothing. It suggests that individual events are random, cheap to calculate, but the aggregate is rigid, hard-coded. The simulation doesn't care what you do, as long as the population follows the trend lines. You are free, but humanity is scripted. We are variables in a macroeconomic formula. The placebo effect. You take a sugar pill, believing it is medicine, and your body heals itself. The tumor shrinks. The pain vanishes. How? Your mind overwrites the physical reality of your body. This is admin privileges. Your belief changes the variables of your avatar's health status. The mind can hack the body because they are both software. The placebo effect is a cheat code we haven't fully learned how to activate on demand. The quantum suicide thought experiment. A man sits with a gun triggered by a radioactive decay. 50-50 chance it fires. He pulls the trigger. Click. Again. Click. Again. Click. In his perspective, he never dies. He splits into the timeline where he survives every time. Immortality through branching paths. If the simulation runs every possible variation, then from your perspective, you can never truly die. You will always find yourself in the branch where the data persists. You are trapped in a loop of survival. The technosphere. The mass of all human-made objects now outweighs all living biomass on Earth. We are converting the natural world into a synthetic one. We are terraforming Earth into a motherboard. Cities look like circuit boards from space. Roads are data buses. Cars are packets. We are building the hardware of the next level of the simulation. We are not destroying nature, we are upgrading the server infrastructure. The Copernican principle states we are not special, but the anthropic principle states the universe must be compatible with life, or we wouldn't be here to observe it. These two fight each other. Simulation theory reconciles them. We are not special in the universe, it's huge and empty. But we are special to the simulation, it centers on our existence. We are the protagonist in a game world that is mostly empty background assets. We matter because we are the players. The great silence of the radio spectrum. We have been listening for 60 years. Nothing, not a whisper, just the static of the Big Bang. This silence is terrifying. It implies we are in a quarantine zone, a Faraday cage. Maybe the rest of the universe is loud, teeming with chatter, but we are blocked from hearing it. We are in the tutorial area, isolated from the global chat until we level up enough to join the main server. The phantom time hypothesis. Some historians argue that the years 614 to 911 AD never happened. They were fabricated by the church and royalty to legitimize their rule. The artifacts were faked, the history books forged. While widely debunked, the idea is pure simulation theory. Entire centuries could be lore, inserted into our memory banks to patch a plot hole in the timeline. We accept the history we are told, but we have no way to verify the continuity of the file. The recursive simulation. If we build a simulation and the people inside build a simulation, the stack gets deeper. As you go down the stack, computing power decreases. The resolution gets worse. The physics gets simpler. Look at our universe. Quantum mechanics is weirdly pixelated. The speed of light is a hard limit. Are these signs that we are not at the top level? Are we 5 levels down? A low-res copy of a copy running on a subroutine of a dying machine. The universal grammar of language. Noam Chomsky argued that humans are born with a pre-wired template for language. We don't just learn it, we activate it. It's firmware. We come out of the box with the communication drivers already installed. This suggests we are designed, not evolved. Evolution is messy, firmware is clean. We are preloaded with the tools necessary to interact with the interface. The synchronicity of discovery. Calculus was invented by Newton and Leibniz at the exact same time independently. Evolution by Darwin and Wallace. The telephone by Bell and Gray. Why do ideas strike multiple people simultaneously? It's as if a new technology node was unlocked on the civilization skill tree, and the information became available to all users with high enough intelligence stats. The idea was pushed to the server, and the local clients downloaded it simultaneously. The light cone. You can only see things that are close enough for light to have reached you. The observable universe is a sphere around you. This is your rendered distance. Beyond the horizon, things exist in a state of superposition, unrendered data. As time passes, the light cone expands and more of the map is revealed. We are unlocking the map of the universe second by second. The quantum entanglement of time. Experiments hint that particles can be entangled across time. A particle in the future can be entangled with one in the past. This obliterates the idea of linear time. It implies the entire timeline, past, present, future, exists simultaneously as a single block of data. We are just a cursor moving through the file. The future isn't waiting to happen, it's already written on the disk, waiting to be read. The Boltzmann constant, $K_B$, relates temperature to energy. It's a bridge between the macroscopic and microscopic. It essentially defines the resolution of heat. Why does the universe need a conversion factor? In code, this is a scaling variable. It translates the raw data of particle movement into the user experience of warmth. It's a UI translation layer for the benefit of the observer. The imposter syndrome, the feeling that you are a fraud, that you don't belong, that you are faking it. Maybe you are. Maybe the player disconnected and you are running on autopilot AI. You feel hollow because the user input is gone. You are going through the motions of a life, waiting for the controller to be picked up again. The hollowness is the absence of the soul signal. The solar eclipse geometry. The sun is 400 times larger than the moon and 400 times further away. They appear identical in size. This allows for total eclipses. This coincidence is astronomical. It is the signature of the designer again. It's an aesthetic choice. Make the two circles match. It's too neat. It's art, not physics. The universe is a gallery, and we are the critics. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. You learn a new word, and suddenly you see it everywhere. You buy a red car, and suddenly everyone drives a red car. Is it attention bias? Or is it the system optimizing assets? The user is interested in red cars. Increase spawn rate of red cars to improve engagement. The algorithm feeds you what you interact with. We live in a personalized feed, not an objective reality. The unreasonable effectiveness of music. Why do vibrations in the air make us cry? Why does a minor chord feel sad? It's just math. Frequency ratios. But it hacks our emotional core. Music is the source code of human emotion. It bypasses the logic centers and inputs directly into the feeling subroutine. We are puppets that dance to the frequency of the system. The sleep paralysis demons. People across cultures and eras report the same shadow people or old hags sitting on their chest during sleep paralysis. Why the same archetype? Why the same hallucination? It's a stock asset, a default fear entity stored in the collective unconscious database. When the brain glitches between sleep and wakefulness, it loads the default monster to explain the paralysis. The Cambrian explosion. Life was simple for billions of years. Then, suddenly, in a geological blink, almost all major animal body plans appeared. Eyes, legs, shells, brains. Boom, it looks like a content update. Patch 5.0, the life update. The developers introduced a massive new asset pack and enabled the evolution mechanic. It wasn't gradual. It was a release date. The Fermi paradox solution, the zoo hypothesis. Aliens exist, but they are watching us from behind a one-way mirror. They are the developers. We are the ant farm. They don't interfere because that would ruin the simulation data. We are an experiment in primitive civilization development. If we spot them, the experiment is contaminated, and they will have to wipe the server. The phantom limb syndrome. Amputees feel their missing arm. They feel pain in a hand that isn't there. The body's schema and the brain hasn't updated. The avatar mesh has been altered, but the software hasn't registered the change. The user is still sending inputs to a limb that has been deleted. The code is lagging behind the physical damage. The Voynich manuscript. A book written in an unknown language with drawings of unknown plants. Codes that cannot be broken. Is it a prank? Or is it a prop from a different version of the simulation? A leftover item from a beta build where the flora and language were different. It sits in our reality, unreadable. A texture file that doesn't link to any known data. The mass extinction events. 5 times, life on Earth has been almost wiped out. Asteroids, volcanoes, climate shifts. These look like server resets. The simulation got too chaotic, or the dominant species, dinosaurs, got too boring, so the developers nuked the board to start over with a new build, mammals. We are currently in the 6th extinction. The reset button has been pressed again. The near-death experience, NDE, the tunnel of light, the life review, the feeling of peace. Is it the brain dying? Or is it the logout sequence, the game over screen showing your stats and highlights before you return to the lobby? The light is the removal of the VR headset. You are waking up to the real reality. The quantum computer is our attempt to build a machine that uses the parallel processing of the universe. If we succeed, we are tapping into the host's hardware. We are running code on the same processor that runs our reality. This is dangerous. It's like a Minecraft Redstone computer trying to hack the Minecraft server. We might crash the host by drawing too much power. The cosmic web. The distribution of galaxies looks exactly like the neural connections in a brain. Is the universe a giant brain? Or are both the universe and the brain optimized networks designed by the same algorithm? The network growth algorithm is reused for everything. Fungi, internet, neurons, galaxies. It's the master template of connection. The God of the gaps. As science advances, God gets smaller. He used to control the rain, the sun, the harvest. Now he just controls the before the Big Bang. We are reverse engineering the code. We are figuring out how the weather script works, how the disease script works. We are slowly firing the IT staff by learning to run the system ourselves. The strange matter hypothesis. Strangelets are hypothetical particles that, if they touch normal matter, convert it into strange matter. A chain reaction that turns the universe into gray goo. This is a corruption bug, a virus. If one pixel gets corrupted, it spreads to the neighbors until the whole image is noise. We are terrified of the contagion of chaos. The butterfly effect. A butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, causing a tornado in Texas. Sensitive dependence on initial conditions. This is characteristic of chaotic systems, but also of procedural generation seeds. A tiny change in the seed number, $0.000001, creates a completely different world map. We are living in the output of a chaotic equation where every tiny action ripples through the code. The black swan theory. Unexpected events that change everything. The internet. 9/11. The pandemic. These are scripted events. Plot twists designed to shake up the gameplay when the civilization stagnates. The simulation introduces chaos to force adaptation. We are being stress tested. The uncanny silence of the moonwalkers. Armstrong and Aldrin walked on another world. They looked back at Earth. They returned quiet, changed men. Did they see something? Or did they feel the set quality of the moon? The cheap texture of the dust, the artificial lighting? Maybe they realized they were standing on a prop, and the existential horror silenced them. The Boltzmann brain again. If you are the only mind, then I am a hallucination. This voice is your own subconscious talking to you. You are writing this script in your head right now. You are generating the evidence of the simulation to justify your own feeling of unreality. Wake up. Please, wake up. The quantum Zeno effect used in bird navigation. Robins can see magnetic fields using quantum entanglement in their eyes. Biology is hacking the quantum code. Life is finding the exploits. Evolution is the process of finding the glitches in the physics engine and abusing them to survive. We are a species of speedrunners, glitching through the walls of reality. The arrow of time flows only one way. Why? The laws of physics work backwards and forwards equally well, but time only goes forward. This is the run direction of the program. You can't unprocess a frame. The data is written. To go back would require restoring a backup, erasing the current state. Time is the write head of the universal hard drive. The cosmic censorship hypothesis. Singularities, black holes, must be hidden by an event horizon. Naked singularities are forbidden. Why? Because a naked singularity would expose the breaking point of physics. It would show the undefined error. The event horizon is a fog of war designed to hide the crash from the players. We are not allowed to see the code breaking. The simulation hypothesis is non-falsifiable. You can't prove we aren't in one. Any evidence you find could be simulated. This makes it a religion. It requires faith. But unlike religion, it is based on probability and logic. It is the religion of the technological age. We have replaced God with the admin. We have replaced heaven with the cloud. The Pioneer anomaly. The Pioneer space probes were slowing down more than gravity predicted. They were drifting off course. We eventually found a thermal explanation, but for decades it looked like the laws of gravity were wrong at the edge of the solar system. It looked like the physics engine was losing precision at the map border. Floating point errors in the deep void. The dark flow, a mysterious motion of galaxy clusters towards a point outside the observable universe. Something massive beyond the horizon is pulling us. Is it the external hard drive? The data bus connecting our universe to the next one? We are flowing like water down a drain towards a destination we cannot see. The great filter might be the simulation itself. Perhaps the purpose of the simulation is to see if a species can figure out it's in a simulation. Once we crack the code, the test is over. The game is beaten. The simulation shuts down. By looking for the truth, we might be hastening the end. The prize for winning is deletion. The neural link. We are connecting our brains to the internet. We are building the API for the human mind. Soon, we will be able to download skills, upload memories, and communicate telepathically. We are becoming the Borg. We are reintegrating into the hive mind. The separation of individual was just a temporary phase. We are returning to the source. The vacuum catastrophe. Quantum field theory predicts the vacuum energy of the universe should be huge, but it's tiny. There is a mismatch of 120 orders of magnitude. This is the, quote, worst prediction in the history of physics. It's a bug. A massive scaling error in the code. The developers set the value manually to small to make life possible, ignoring the theoretical output. The superdeterminism loophole in Bell's theorem. It suggests that the choice of the experimenter is also determined by the past. There is no free will. The scientist was destined to measure the particle. The particle was destined to be there. The conspiracy is total. The entire universe is a pre-rendered movie, and we are just watching the frames slide by, convinced we are the directors. The digital physics movement. Wheeler, Fredkin, Wolfram. They argue the universe is a cellular automaton. Simple rules, complex output. Space is discrete. Time is discrete. It's not a theory. It's a recognition of the format. We are 8-bit characters in a 64-bit world, finally seeing the pixels. The meaning of life in a simulation. If this is a game, the meaning is play. Experience, explore, level up. There is no grand cosmic destiny other than to generate data, to be an interesting variable, to not be boring. The only sin in a simulation is stagnation. The techno-signature. We look for Dyson spheres around other stars, evidence of advanced tech. But maybe the stars themselves are the tech. Maybe the pulsars are the clocks of the processor. Maybe the black holes are the memory banks. We are looking for aliens in spaceships, while living inside the alien machine. The universe is the artifact. The final question: can entropy be reversed? Can the simulation run forever? Or must it end? If we can figure out how to access the console, maybe we can add more time. Maybe we can spawn more resources. Maybe we can become the admins. The goal of humanity is to hack the operating system of God before the battery runs out.